The first tenet of existentialism that we're going to explore is the idea of predetermination. Predetermination means that everything in life has been predetermined or set out for us. Everything from our actions to the history to even the future. So if everything is predetermined, we have no free will. Life really is truly meaningless. One of the tenets of existentialism is existence precedes essence. And this is basically the idea that there's no set mold or guide to being human because you find that for yourself by living, by existing. And by existing, you come to find your essence. So, in fact, what makes somebody human is not defined by a culture or by nature. It is by who you become as a human and what you make of yourself. Freedom is the ability to develop one's essence independently without the effects of society or religion. Freedom is also the ability to accomplish one's chosen goals, because with complete freedom, one has the ability to determine how they want to live their life and what they would like to make of it. We're going to explore the tenet of death. Now, existentialism revolves around the idea that life has no meaning, no purpose. So as a result, wouldn't death have no purpose as well? Well, this idea of death is also referred to as nothingness, and it's the idea that because we exist, it thus implies that we will no longer exist after death. And so this sense of our impending death affects not only our actions and the way we live our lives, but it just permeates our whole existence. But so, while death is a tenet in existentialism, it is not a huge focus in existentialism because death is inevitable. We're all going to die. So instead of focusing on the inevitable, we should instead focus on how we can expand our essence by living, by existing.
Before death, there's unlimited free will to choose to be an authentic human being, but this is restricted by society's rules and standards. To be part of society means to choose between your personal desires and what is good for the whole community. Now we're going to apply the tenets of existentialism to Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. The first tenet is going to be freedom. So the clones' lives are predetermined. They're going to be organ donors for humans who are of higher importance. They can't even injure their own bodies because they don't own their own bodies. So Hailsham is a relatively humane place compared to other cloning facilities, but the students are still restricted by physical, social, and psychological barriers. There's the physical fence, the rules of the school, and the imminence of their fates that is always on the clones' minds. There's also the system of collecting artwork for Madame's gallery to show that the clones have souls, but by this standard, Tommy's artwork is meaningless and soulless. Another thing that Hailsham regulates is the sexual activity of the clones. Even though there are no actual repercussions for these sexual activities, the clones can't have children, but they're still judged by human moral standards. And because they can't have children, they can't leave behind a legacy. So wouldn't that mean that their lives are meaningless, since no one will remember who they are and what their actual essence was? Another thing is that they couldn't even dream of something different from their original purpose. After Hailsham, the students go to a place somewhere like the cottages, where there's perceived freedom that they can go anywhere they want and develop their essence, but they still have to report their whereabouts anywhere they go. And so in actuality, they're still bound by their identity as clones, and they can never enter human society like a normal human. The next tenet is existence precedes essence. So the Society of Never Let Me Go doesn't acknowledge that the clones have souls and have developed their essence. The artwork collected for Madame's gallery is to show that the clones do have souls and that they should be treated accordingly. But by this standard, Tommy's effort is meaningless and soulless. But also, by existentialist standards, this makes Tommy a human being because he experiences alienation and the despair of living. At Hailsham, the clones have a chance to develop their essence, but they can't even dream of something different from their purpose. And so it is almost absurd, which is another tenet. The movement created by Miss Emily and Madame dies out because society dictates that the clones' lives are absurd and inherently meaningless. Society finds it easier to see the clones as mass-produced and soulless organs. The next tenet is free will. Existentialism states that the remedy against the absurdity of the world is action, and that individuals are responsible for their own development through acts of free will. But the clones are restricted by society's enslavement, and therefore they can't change their fate by free will. By this logic, their lives and struggles are absurd. But at the same time, their struggle against this system is what makes them human. The last tenet is death. Clones are created to die, basically. Clones don't even fear death as humans do because they can't strive for life. Humans strive for life because they are conscious of their innate worth, but clones don't even have that freedom. Kathy and Tommy go to see Miss Emily to get a deferral. They don't even ask to stop the donations, they just want more time together, but they aren't even granted that. And they accept it. Tommy goes on to complete, and Kathy goes on with her life, knowing that one day she will also complete. The force of the world is too large for them, and in the end, their lives are truly meaningless.
Toy Story is a film that was released in 1995 by Disney. Although it was intentionally made for children and is animated, many of the complicated tenets of existentialism can be found within this film. Now, the first one we're going to explore is freedom. Freedom can be defined as the ability to create oneself away from the influences of society and predetermination. The toys in Toy Story, however, their main purpose of existence is to provide entertainment to the children. So their lives are kind of dictated by the children's desires. On the other hand, the toys know that they are toys. They are aware that the children are their owners and that whenever the children are around, they really don't have a free will of their own. Thus, in the film, whenever a human of some kind appears, the toys fall and act limp and like they cannot become animated as they are. However, freedom can be defined as the ability to achieve one's goals. Now, the goals of the toys in Toy Story are purely to be played with by children and to be loved, the sole purpose of their existence. They embrace their lack of freedom rather than trying to fight it. They explore their restricted environment and make use of the time they have to develop their own personalities, out of the eye of the humans, of course. The next tenet of existentialism that we're going to explore in Toy Story is absurdity. Now, this one's more of questions than answers. Some of those questions are, if the toys are meant to be manipulated and played with, why are they animated? Why can they move on their own? But yet, why do they hide this when other humans are around? Why do they have their own social structure if their only purpose is to be toys? And why do they have their own identities if they are simply meant for children's entertainment? The next tenet of existentialism that we're going to explore in Toy Story is predetermination. Now, a toy can best be defined as an object for a child to play with, typically a model or a miniature replica of something. From the beginning, when they are created, the toys, their identities are dictated by children's desires and by carefully laid out plans from manufacturers. They are oftentimes replicas of maybe a character in a film or a show or something that manufacturers would think would be very popular with the children. Thus, they are not only toys to serve as children's entertainment, but to make profits for the manufacturers. Now, a prime example of the consequences of this predetermination is shown mainly through Buzz Lightyear. When Buzz first comes into the film, his first lines are, "Buzz Lightyear to Star Command." He comes into Andy's world and meets all the other toys thinking that he is the Buzz Lightyear. He is the original, not merely a replica among millions that have been mass-produced and sold to children all over the world. However, Buzz soon learns that he is merely a replica toy, and this is shown in Sid's home when he sees a commercial on TV for Buzz Lightyear. At this point, Buzz experiences a stage of depression and dejectedness, one that, of course, most toys must experience before they can go on to develop their own identities and animated selves, apart from the original that they were replicated from. Whenever Buzz and Woody are trapped in Sid's house, Hannah steals Buzz away to play Tea Party with him. She gives him a new name, Miss Nesbit. And when Woody comes in to try to get Buzz to escape with him, we can see here clearly how depressed and dejected Buzz really is as he refuses to help Woody and says that, "I am Miss Nesbit." This depression and dejectedness is a mere stage that the toys must all overcome in order to figure out that they are more than just a replica and figure out their individual selves apart from their model and within the setting that they have been placed in. The next tenet of existentialism that we are going to explore in Toy Story is existence precedes essence. Now that simply means that people exist as beings first, and then develop who they are as they continue to live. In more simple terms, the physicality of life is first and followed by the more spiritual and emotional part of it, the internal development of a being. Now, even though the toys in Toy Story first come with predetermined identities, they still have a freedom to develop their own essence. Now, they can use those manufactured identities as a starting point to developing who they truly are, who they want to be, who they are to the other toys. At some point, all of Andy's toys have come to a point of realization where they realize that they are toys and that they must let go of their factory roots and detach themselves from their models to become who they truly are. Now, Buzz is another prime example of this struggle. The real Buzz Lightyear, according to TV commercials and as what is marketed and advertised, can fly. Now, Buzz Lightyear wants to prove that he is the real Buzz, he is the model, and not just a mere replica of the Buzz Lightyear. So by doing this, by trying to prove this, he jumps and attempts to fly, but the only thing he really proves is that he has breakable arms. So then Woody proceeds to remind Buzz that even though they are predetermined and even though their identities are based off a model, that isn't really the point. Even though Buzz isn't the real Buzz, he isn't the model toy, that his purpose is to bring happiness to Andy. And it's not more about identity, but more about purpose. And if he can still bring joy to Andy even though he is not the model, then what is the point of trying to prove that? So from that point on, Buzz can choose to become more than what his model is, more than what he is advertised as, and to become his true self and the person that he wants to be and the person that he wants others, as in the toys, to see.
Well, everyone wants to have meaning in their life. Everyone wants to feel that they have a purpose. Because if we don't have purpose or meaning, then why should we make anything of our lives? Why should we try to better ourselves? Because if we live with no purpose, we're not really living at all. We're just existing. And it can be clearly seen in our analysis of Toy Story and Never Let Me Go. Because in Toy Story, the characters focus on what makes a society and why is it important in our lives, why is it necessary. Whereas in Never Let Me Go, the focus is on what makes someone truly human. But both storylines have the characters putting themselves into boxes. But they need these boxes because without society, what really is our purpose in life? What is existentialism's impact on us? Well, we've learned that freedom is subjective. You can choose your own boundaries. You can live within the rules of society and stay in it if that's what gives you purpose. You also have physical boundaries in your life, like through society and religion and relationships. But there comes a point that you learn it's so much more than just getting a good grade on a test or winning that basketball game. There's more to life than that. And through our experience with group work, we have learned it is very challenging, and we've also learned how to research and communicate a lot better with each other. So, don't sell yourself too short. Don't set your standards too low. If you see a goal, strive for it. Go for that new great thing that you want in life. What were we trying to accomplish through this project? Well, what originally started off as just a questioning process and a paper for an assignment was, in fact, turned into something so much more. We really, truly wanted to learn what our purpose in life was. And we came to the conclusion that there really is no one true correct answer to that question. Everyone's going to have a different answer to that question. But we succeeded in the fact that through the questioning process, we learned that the questions are worth as much as the answers in this case. How have our views changed as a result of this project? Well, first off, we feel a lot worse for toys now. They have a lot more existential problems than we had realized. And as teenagers, we want to rebel and act out against society, but in fact, it's society that gives us the sure footing and a good foundation before we begin to delve into the greater questions of who and what and why we are. And we're also taught that in a society, we should make decisions based off of the good of the society as a whole. But in fact, in doing that, we'll sometimes have to sacrifice what we want as well for the good of others.
So, have you had an existential crisis yet?